The story starts with the protagonist, Suchin Jang, who initially finds the concept of a hero with bug wings absurd. Despite this, Suchin is a well-liked student at college, known for being handsome and intriguing. He attracts a lot of attention from girls, who hope to date him, and is sought after as a friend by many. However, what others don't know is that Suchin harbors a massive secret. Underneath his shirt and bandages lies a set of giant dragonfly wings, which he acquired after using a spray to kill a dragonfly in his room. The incident left him with the wings, and he has been hiding them ever since. He kept to himself for many years, afraid of the consequences of revealing his secret. When he started college, he chose to continue hiding his wings and act as if he was normal. Suchin is scared that if his secret gets out, he will be rejected and left alone. The story introduces us to his friends and his crush, Manhwa, a kind-hearted girl who seems to have feelings for Suchin. She even goes to the movies with him to cheer him up. At one point, Suchin contemplates revealing his secret to her, but before he gets the chance, a half-man, half-bug arrives and starts killing people. This bug man reveals that he too used the spray like Suchin did. The jungle juice bug spray has a profound effect on people, causing them to undergo changes. When Manhwa gets involved with a man with bug powers, she is thrown out of a window, leading Suchin to reveal his hidden wings and save her. A girl with bug abilities tries to recruit Suchin and take him to a special school. As time goes on, the man with bug wings becomes the talk of the town, and many believe he may be Suchin. But Suchin chooses to isolate himself, avoiding his former friends. Nevertheless, rumors continue to spread about his possible connection to the bug man. A month later, Manhwa wakes up from the hospital, and Suchin decides to visit her. However, his visit does not go as planned and Manhwa is scared of him. She sends him away and pleads for him to never come back. This leaves Suchin feeling depressed and alone, reflecting on his difficult childhood as an orphan with no one to care for him. Suchin is struggling with the same issue once again, all due to these dragonfly wings. Despite attempting to cut them off, fear overcomes him, causing him to give up. In a moment of desperation, he tries to jump off a building, but his wings unexpectedly activate. Then he encounters a girl with bug antennas. She introduces herself and invites Suchin to a mysterious location called the Nest. It is a college for individuals with bug abilities, all of whom were affected by a substance known as jungle juice. As Suchin explores his new university, he meets a peculiar old man who feeds other bugs and considers Suchin foolish for wanting to rid himself of his wings. He also meets Professor Doyeon Ma, who is kind and offers explanations to Suchin. The professor reveals that there is a chance for Suchin to regain his normal life. The top student of the university is given the opportunity to drink a rare serum called Cinderella. Desperate to return to his former self, Suchin watches a video of a student drinking the serum and reverting back to a human. Professor Doyeon Ma explains that the serum is difficult to produce and is therefore rare. Each year, only one student is chosen to receive the serum. Suchin decides to enroll in the university due to his outstanding grades. He finally discovers that the girl with the bug antennas is named Waejin, who is also the top student in her class and class president. During a chaotic fight on campus, Waejin steps in and diffuses the situation. Suchin is bewildered and struggles to adapt to his new environment. He soon realizes that his grades may pose a problem, as the school focuses on solving bug-related issues rather than traditional subjects like math and chemistry. He meets Junji, the old man from the start, who is actually an instructor on campus. Junji is eager to challenge Suchin and teach him the true essence of a bug's life. At his first class, a brawl breaks out, but Junji explains that this is the way students pass exams at this school. A fellow student takes the time to explain the unique class registration process to Suchin. Combat is involved and the teachers hide in the mountains, leaving the students to locate them in order to register for classes. Only 16 USBs are given to the students by the teachers. This student also informs Suchin that he must obtain a device to win. Flying high in the sky, Suchin sets his sights on being a part of Professor Ma's class, who seems like a kind person. He successfully finds the professor and is given the last USB to join the class. However, everything changes when Suchin suddenly becomes a target for everyone. The friendly student from before was deceptive, making Suchin the subject of everyone's pursuit. All eyes are on Suchin as he possesses the USB. He soon finds himself defending against multiple attacks, only to be rescued by the supposed friendly student. However, it turns out that this student is not a friend at all, but rather a malicious individual with the power of a honeybee. The student stabs Suchin in the head, takes the USB and insults him for being naive. This is when Suchin's dragonfly instincts are activated for the first time. Known for their hunting abilities, Suchin sets out to hunt down the bee kid. He catches up and lands a punch on the kid's face, knocking him out. Just as he's about to retrieve the USB, another girl swoops in and steals it. In pursuit, Suchin notices that the bee kid is still unconscious and makes the decision to sacrifice his USB to save him. Using his wings, Suchin saves the evil student, but in the process, crashes to the ground, completely exhausted. He loses consciousness. As the scene closes, we see that many of the students have successfully completed their transfer process. Wei-jin is anxious about Suchin as he begins his journey as a transfer student and has no clue about what lies ahead. She is aware of the challenges he may face during the registration process. When Suchin finally wakes up, he finds Professor Junji standing next to him. Junji mocks Suchin and informs him that he only has 5 minutes left to complete the registration process, which is impossible. Junji also belittles Suchin and tells him that he is not fit for the school, where all the students are trained as lethal killing machines. Instead of studying, they engage in combat training every day. Junji throws a bag at him and orders him to recycle. Upon opening the bag, Suchin discovers a USB inside. With his extraordinary speed, Suchin must now race against time to register for the curse. As it turns out, Junji has a hidden agenda and wants to train Suchin. He was impressed by Suchin's bravery in saving a student. Dowa Qian and Haisheng Cha overpower other students and maintain their top-notch status in their class. Wei-jin receives a message to protect and care for Suchin, and he uses his speed to register for the curse. In the end, Suchin is left shocked to learn who his real teacher is. As Suchin joins his new class, he is brimming with excitement. However, this excitement quickly turns into frustration when he is asked to leave the building by security for lacking an ID card. Luckily, Wei-jin shows up and offers to help Suchin with the administrative process. The two of them make their way to class, where Suchin impresses Wei-jin with his unwavering determination to become the top student. Upon arriving at class, Suchin meets several new students, including Haisheng. However, their introduction is cut short when Haisheng begins yelling at Suchin for almost exposing the school. Wei-jin had previously warned Suchin that the students are very careful and any mention of bug people is deleted. Just as Haisheng finishes his scolding, a class bully, who has the power of a water bug, attacks him. Suchin tries to defend him but also gets knocked out. The bully takes their ID cards and leaves with his gang. Both Suchin and Haisheng wake up in the hospital bed, and Wei-jin promises to retrieve their cards. Haisheng tells Suchin that she will likely go alone and fight the water bug gang. Meanwhile, Wei-jin faces off against the gang, and the fight is brutal. Wei-jin has to use all her speed and skill to fight the water bug guy. The bully proves to be too strong for Wei-jin and begins to overpower her in the water. She is unable to defend herself and her life is in peril. Suddenly, Suchin comes to her rescue, hitting the bully with full force. Suchin engages the bully in a fight and throws several well-placed punches. However, other students who are aiding the bully arrive, and the bully becomes more determined to kill Wei-jin. Suchin reassures Wei-jin that he has brought help and Haisheng appears, attacking the other bullies with his powerful legs. Suchin tells Wei-jin that she will no longer have to face danger alone, similar to what she had said to him when they first met. Haisheng easily defeats the bullies and retrieves the stolen IDs. The main bully goes after Wei-jin again, but Suchin intervenes, holding him back. Suchin retrieves the stolen ID and scolds the bully, reminding the students to not lose their humanity. Wei-jin is amazed by Suchin's bravery and kindness. After the battle, Suchin and his friends return to class as if nothing had happened. The introduction class has come to an end and the students have received their student IDs. Excited about his new adventure, Suchin is moving into the school dormitory. Upon arriving at his room, he finds out that Haisheng is his roommate. Despite Haisheng's intense nature, they quickly become close friends and are joined by Wei-jin and her friend to celebrate. With real friends, Sachin can finally be himself. Meanwhile, the defeated school bully wanders into the dark forest and encounters a mysterious woman who kills him due to his failure. This woman seems to have sinister plans for the students at the school. For his first class with the students, Professor Junji begins by teaching them about the curse. Unfortunately, Sachin and his friends missed orientation, so they're clueless about what's going on. To their surprise, Junji pulls out a massive chainsaw and begins attacking them. Sachin is shocked by this teaching technique, as it seems that all students at the Bug Academy must be trained in using their powers and mastering combat. Being a student with powers requires being prepared for anything, as an attack from a praying mantis can be fatal. Meanwhile, the mysterious woman from the forest infiltrates the university jail and uses her poison to control a student with bee powers. The student becomes completely hypnotized, and the woman feeds him to the trapped praying mantis killer. The killer then follows a familiar scent into the forest. It appears that he has tracked down Sachin and seeks vengeance. Meanwhile, the class becomes even more intense. Sachin begins to revisit his past traumas, and Weijin must rescue him. In the nick of time, Weijin, Sachin, and Haisheng hide in the bushes, avoiding the professor's attacks. Unexpectedly, another student is hurt and Professor Junji is ready to eliminate her. Sachin cannot stand by and he intervenes, pleading with his teacher to stop and explaining that this is wrong. Junji presents Sachin with a daunting challenge. Either Sachin must strike him, or he and his friends will be expelled from the university and banned from obtaining the Cinderella potion. Sachin is overwhelmed with fear and does not know how to proceed. Determined to tap into his dragonfly powers, Sachin launched an attack against his teacher Junji. Despite his best efforts, he was unable to land a single hit on his opponent. Junji, who was also endowed with powerful bug powers, didn't even have to defend himself. In response, Junji calmly explained that his powers were temporarily unavailable due to an injury. Despite attempting to use his speed to gain an advantage, Sachin's efforts were still fruitless. Junji then mocked Sachin, pointing out that he was using a power called Compound Eyes, connected to dragonflies, but he had no control over it. Junji went on to tell Sachin that to fully control his powers, he must embrace his true nature as a bug and find inner peace. With newfound determination, Sachin tried again, but was easily defeated. Just when all seemed lost, a mysterious woman appeared, attacking and poisoning one of the students within seconds. Haisheng stepped forward to defend his friends against the woman, but was overpowered and fatally poisoned. Junji was then viciously attacked, leaving Sachin filled with terror and a sense of helplessness. Suddenly, a praying mantis appeared, seeking retribution for a previous wrong committed by Sachin. With Junji badly hurt and Haisheng kidnapped, Sachin knew he had to act quickly. Unleashing his wings, he flew towards the praying mantis with all the speed and strength he could muster. Dragonflies and praying mantises have been natural enemies for eternity, as Junji had previously warned Sachin about. Despite the danger, Sachin was determined to stop the attacker, even if it meant putting himself in harm's way. As he approached the mantis, Sachin launched a barrage of attacks, using his agility to strike with speed. However, the mantis was heavily armored, deflecting his blows with ease. The praying mantis was a formidable foe, and defeating it would require immense strength. Meanwhile, Haisheng started to regain consciousness, his body still numb and weakened from the poison. The enigmatic woman saw a chance to end his life, but before she could act, Sachin arrived and engaged her in a fierce battle. Despite her best attempts, Sachin was able to deflect all her strikes and urged Haisheng to flee. Haisheng couldn't comprehend why Sachin was willing to sacrifice himself for him, but then he recollected their discussions about compassion and friendship. He realized that Sachin truly cared for him and that he couldn't abandon him. Utilizing his ultra-fast grasshopper legs, Haisheng lifted Sachin and jumped to safety with the praying mantis killer in pursuit. As they made their escape, Haisheng and Sachin devised a plan that could defeat the mantis killer. Haisheng was hesitant to fight, but Sachin convinced him that it was their best course of action. In the end, Sachin grabbed the chainsaw that Junji had previously used and prepared for battle once more. With all his power and speed at his disposal, Sachin charged towards the praying mantis killer, wielding the chainsaw as his weapon. Despite his valiant efforts, the praying mantis remained a formidable opponent, and his initial attacks failed to inflict significant damage. But Sachin was determined, and he pushed himself to try even harder, using his wings to create an opening for a more powerful strike. Sachin finally delivered a decisive strike against the praying mantis killer. Haisheng, who had been observing from the sidelines, joined the battle and together they were able to overcome their opponents and make their escape. But their victory was short-lived as Junji appeared, fully healed and ready to engage in combat. With the help of Sachin and Haisheng, he activated his powers and successfully defeated their enemy. Upon their return to school, both Haisheng and Sachin were badly injured and needed medical attention. As they recovered in their beds, Haisheng suddenly woke up and stumbled into the forest, under the influence of a mysterious woman who had poisoned him. The woman, named Guyan Sin, revealed her evil plans to control Haisheng and use him for her own purposes. Just as things seemed dire, Junji swooped in from the sky, ready to face off against Guyan Sin. Junji was well aware of Guyan Sin and her plans, as she was a former student of his. With a vengeance, she promised to kill every student, but Junji was determined to put an end to her once and for all. He used all of his skills and abilities to engage her in battle and defeat her. As Junji and Guyan Sin engaged in a fierce and violent battle, Sachin appeared on the scene, worried about Haisheng's safety. Junji unleashed his ultimate attack, setting the forest ablaze. Guyan Sin tried to strike him with her poisonous tail, but Junji managed to block the attack. At that moment, Professor Ma appeared and recognized Guyan Sin as one of his former students. He realized that a more malevolent and powerful force was controlling her and that they should not waste their energy fighting her. Instead, he wanted to let her go so that they could later track down and defeat her mastermind. With Junji's help, Guyan Sin was able to flee, warning that the next time they met, everyone would die. When Sachin arrived to pick up Haisheng, it was evident that Junji had much to explain. He filled Sachin in on Guyan Sin's true nature and her past connection to him. Junji explained that she was once a talented student, but something that happened 5 years ago caused her to disappear. Though he did not share the specifics, he stressed the importance of keeping this information confidential. Sachin agreed, on the condition that Junji would teach him how to control his powers and master the complex technique that was the pinnacle of his insect abilities. After being convinced by Sachin's unwavering determination and eagerness to learn, Junji agreed to the offer. The following day, the atmosphere at school was back to normal and the group was introduced to a new student named Dowa Cheon, who would be joining their classes more often. Dowa was one of a kind, with a body resembling a scorpion, and she quickly made her presence felt by teasing the group. Sachin was thrilled to learn that his group consisted of Haisheng, Weijin, and Dowa for the semester. He was particularly excited to have more time with Weijin. Junji assigned their first mission as a group where they were required to explore the area where Jungle Juice products first launched and retrieve a can of Jungle Juice. If they succeeded, they would receive an A in Junji's class. Sachin was ecstatic about the mission and his joy doubled when he found out that he and Weijin were a team. He remembered having a can of Jungle Juice at his home and suggested it as their starting location. When they arrived at his old apartment, they were shocked to find it in ruins and the Jungle Juice was nowhere to be found, as someone had already taken it. During a brief pause, Weijin and Sachin engage in a conversation about their lives. Sachin expresses his desire to take the Cinderella serum and return to his previous life. He asks Weijin about her plans, but she simply states that she won't be going back, leaving the meaning unclear. Weijin is shown to be reticent about discussing her past, and it is revealed that she possesses powers similar to those of a praying mantis, which is the dragonfly's natural predator. Sachin is taken back by this revelation, as Weijin is vastly different from the praying mantis he previously encountered. The pair receives a phone call alerting them to the discovery of a giant warehouse filled with jungle juice. Weijin suspects it to be a trap, as large quantities of jungle juice have never been found before. Despite the potential danger, the duo venture into the dark warehouse to investigate. Suddenly, Weijin is attacked by a monster with a scorpion-like tail. The warehouse was indeed a trap. This prompts Sachin to lose control and transform into Dragonfly mode, driven by memories of his traumatic childhood. He becomes consumed by the memories of losing his parents at a young age and being raised by his grandparents. Despite never fully grieving the loss of his family and the loneliness that came with it, the sight of Weijin's lifeless body covered in blood brought back the pain of losing someone dear to him. Vowing to avenge her and protect those he loved, he threw himself into the fight with everything he had. He used all of his power, furiously striking the enemy with all his might. However, the attacker's skin was incredibly tough and Sachin's punches seemed to have little impact. The enemy was revealed to be Tani Earwig, who derived pleasure from consuming humans with bug powers. Tani explained that by eating another human with bug abilities, he could gain immense strength. Before discovering his powers, Tani felt his life was pointless and dull. Now, he felt like the strongest predator on the planet. Sachin found Tani's motive for murder to be senseless and swore to put an end to his reign of terror. He battled with all his might, but Tani proved to be a fierce opponent. Sachin was exhausted from the battle and no longer had the strength to fight back. Tani was ready to deliver the final blow, but before he could act, Weijin stepped in. She had undergone a miraculous recovery and was ready for another round. Weijin then unleashed her full potential and showed her true power. Weijin had a tough past, facing poverty and constant bullying from her classmates. They teased her for living in a basement apartment and called her a dirty poor person who lived with cockroaches. Despite the hardships she faced, Weijin had one source of hope: her brother, John Jim Park. John always stood up for her against the bullies and gave her hope for a brighter future. He encouraged her to work hard in school and strive to attend college, as he wanted nothing more than for her to succeed. However, everything changed after her brother's death. Blaming poverty for his passing, Weijin felt isolated and alone. Matters only got worse when her classmates decided to play a cruel joke, releasing hundreds of cockroaches into her apartment. But Weijin used jungle juice spray and gained powers, which revealed that she was actually half cockroach, explaining her ability to heal quickly. She fiercely fought Tani as Sachin was unable to fight due to his injuries. Tani was taken back by Weijin's immense power, but he quickly regained composure and shifted his attention to Sachin. Taking advantage of the situation, Weijin stepped in and took the hit, only to be fatally stabbed through the chest by Tani. Sachin was consumed with rage, his eyes turning bright green, and he powered up, ready to take down Tani. As Weijin's lifeless body laid on the floor, covered in her blood, Tani detected an oddity in Sachin's demeanor. His wings emitted a brilliant green glow and grew in size. Astonishingly, Tani discovered that Sachin had evolved, without needing to devour other bug humans. Suddenly, in a flash, Sachin materialized in front of Tani and dealt him a crushing blow, sending him hurtling across the room. Although Tani attempted to retaliate with his scorpion-like appendage, Sachin easily evaded his attack. Fueled by rage, Sachin continued to pummel Tani with unmatched ferocity, resembling more of a monster than a human. Tani, now badly injured, recognized that he had finally met someone more formidable than himself. Sachin's rampage persisted, tearing Tani apart limb by limb until he was barely alive. Suddenly, a mysterious figure intervened and saved Tani from certain death. The mysterious person longs to reunite with Sachin, and as Sachin faints, he catches a glimpse of the figure vanishing into the shadows. Shortly after returning to his senses, Sachin rushes to rescue Weijin. Sachin carries a motionless Weijin out of the storage room while medics and instructors race to the scene to render aid. Weijin has lost a substantial amount of blood, and all hands are on deck to save her life. Before long, Professor Yu, a bug-human hybrid with rare healing abilities, arrives on the scene. Despite her best efforts, Weijin's heart has stopped beating and cannot be revived. Sachin is consumed by grief as he witnesses the loss of his friend. As Weijin's life flashes before her eyes, we see a flashback of her in her former apartment with her brother, discussing the value of life and bugs. Her brother assures her that life is always precious, and he will always protect her from insects. They hold hands and walk into the light. In the real world, Weijin begins to transform, undergoing a process of rejuvenation and progress. She comes back to life and sees Sachin sobbing next to her. The two of them embrace, and soon after, the same mysterious man who met with Sachin is unmasked. He goes by the name of Breed Leader, a sinister scientist who is behind all the evil schemes. He has even planted a spy within the academy. After a showdown with Tani, there is a temporary calm. But Professor Junji exposes the reality and calls his class for a lecture. He informs them that finding jungle juice is futile, as it has become rare. Without jungle juice, creating the cure known as Cinderella is impossible. A mysterious organization is taking all the jungle juice and attacking humans, turning them into bug monsters. This group is highly dangerous, and their leader remains a mystery. Junji warns his students that the mission poses a significant risk, and gives them the option to leave if they want. Suchin asks if they will be graded for their battles against the group. Junji nods and confirms that grades will be given for riskier missions, resulting in higher scores. The students throw a wild celebration in response. Weijin tries to talk to Suchin, but the party becomes too chaotic. While at the party, Suchin notices a peculiar student who heads outside with a friend. It's later revealed that the student has trapped the female with his webs. Just in time, Suchin intervenes to rescue her. As he tries to rescue his friend Dowa, who appears to be in a deep sleep, the attacker demands that Suchin leave them alone. But, determined not to abandon his friend, Suchin engages in a fight with the mysterious man. The man is revealed to have been sent by Breeder, who has been after Dowa for her strength in battle. Suchin faces a formidable opponent, a hybrid of a human and a deadly tarantula spider that is capable of capturing birds. To avoid losing control, Suchin uses caution while using his powers. However, the kidnapper's attacks are powerful, making it a challenge for Suchin to keep up. After an hour of absence, Weijin and the rest of the friends become concerned and realize that both Suchin and Dowa are missing. Despite his injuries, Suchin persists in the fight and delivers a powerful punch that shatters his opponent's hand. Suddenly, he becomes immobile and collapses to the ground, poisoned by the kidnapper. After some time, Suchin regains consciousness, finding himself in bed with his clothing removed. He discovers that Dowa is also in bed, naked, and Dowa mistakenly slaps him, thinking he's making a move on her. As they dress, they realize they're trapped in a room. Suchin becomes anxious as they've missed classes and fears a poor grade. However, they soon learn that their kidnapper is Junhyung, someone Dowa recognizes from her past. After a while, a young girl comes to their rescue and they discover that they are in an orphanage with many other children. It dawns on Dowa that she grew up in the angel orphanage. However, when some of the children start touching her scorpion tail, she becomes uncomfortable and leaves the room to revisit her past. She recalls how she was brought to the orphanage to escape her abusive father's attempts to take her away. Meanwhile, Suchin meets the orphanage director, who tries to explain the peculiar surroundings. Although things seem normal, Suchin remains vigilant. He later befriends a girl who loves dragonflies and receives her notebook full of drawings before she leaves the orphanage. But Suchin discovered that the director is performing experiments on the kids. The little girl earlier is strapped to a table, ready for mutation. Just as they prepare to start the procedure, a knock is heard at the door. It's Suchin, who uses his strength to break down the door and confront the director. Saying he was on his way out when he saw the sketches the little girl made about the director's cruel experiments on the children, prompting him to intervene and seek justice. He made his way to the basement with the goal of saving the girl and putting an end to the inhumane experiments conducted by the director and his team of mosquito-powered accomplices. Undeterred by the speed and strength of his opponents, Suchin activated his dragonfly powers, warning the director of their deadly capabilities. The director, realizing the danger they were in, ordered one of his accomplices to flee with the little girl. However, Suchin was prepared to protect her, and he tried to save the little girl but was blocked by the director. Meanwhile, Dowa confronted Junhyung about the orphanage experiments they both endured as childhood friends. Junhyung had encouraged Dowa to undergo a transformation to gain powers, recognizing her vulnerability and inability to stand up to her abusive father. With her newfound powers, Dowa defeated her father and became a force to be reckoned with. However, Junhyung feels that every orphan should possess the ability to not be vulnerable, and he works for a person with a similar objective. Outraged by Junhyung's actions, Dowa launches an attack to stop him. As Suchin fights the Inhumans with growing difficulty, his vision begins to become blurry from the dust entering his eye due to his speed. Despite this, he remains unwavering in his determination to save the young girl. Meanwhile, Dowa and Junhyung engage in a fierce battle as Dowa tries to prevent him from fulfilling his evil plans. Dowa and Junhyung leapt down from the top floor of the orphanage building and immediately began to fight. Junhyung had initially hoped to avoid using force to convince Dowa, but he quickly resorted to shooting out a barrage of attacks that proved ineffective against Dowa's powerful exoskeleton. Undeterred, Dowa launched an attack of her own, but Junhyung deftly dodged and opted to use his own physical strength to engage her. In a surprising move, Doa utilized her tail to launch herself into the air and delivered a powerful area kick that sent Junhyung flying. Then she rushes after the van that was abducting the girl. She catches up to the van, stopping it with her immense strength and throws it to the ground, rendering the driver unconscious. As she rescues the girl, Junhyung appears and their fight continues, with Doa deflecting his attacks and telling Junhyung that he cannot do anything to her. In desperation he unleashes his powerful attack, a deadly combination of a black mamba snake and a tarantula, revealing his sharp fangs and biting Doa, putting her unconscious. Just as Junhyung is about to complete his experiment on the girl, Suchin arrives with lightning speed and attacks Junhyung. He triumphantly defeats the director and her accomplices and comes to the aid of the girl and his friend Doa. The moment the little girl opens her eyes, she sees the wings of a dragonfly and realizes that Suchin has come to rescue her. The battle between Junhyung and Suchin escalates as Junhyung launches a stinger attack, but Suchin's glasses grant him clearer vision, allowing him to dodge each strike with precision. With lightning speed, Suchin appears in front of Junhyung, striking him and causing him to fly backwards with a bleeding wound. In retaliation, Junhyung tries to bite Suchin with his venomous fangs, but Suchin counters with a swift kick. The fight continues, and Junhyung reflects on his past, where he failed to protect his mother from abuse by a group of men who did not listen to her pleas. This experience left a deep impact on Junhyung, and he vowed never to be weak again. To protect all children from harm, he created his experiments. However, Suchin counters him by pointing out that the little girl present is not weak, but rather brave in protecting Doa. Suchin goes into overdrive, using his lightning-fast moves to deliver a knockout blow to Junhyung, ending the battle with Junhyung defeated and the little girl and Doa safe. Initially, Suchin thinks the little girl is afraid of his wings, but he quickly realizes that she is concerned about his injuries. The little girl sees Suchin as a true hero. They soon realize that Doa has been taken away by an inhuman from the breeders' organization named Transporter. Upon arriving to rescue Doa, Suchin and Junhyung joined forces, much to the amusement of Breeder who had previously seen them as foes. However, Junhyung demanded answers regarding the whereabouts of the other children he had brought to Breeder, and the answer was shocking. Breeder shows him a videotape. The orphans had been turned into mindless slaves through breeders feeding them human meat, transforming them into monsters. Junhyung was betrayed and sought revenge against Breeder. But before he could act, a controlled Doa appeared and attacked him. She had been transformed into a monster through Gyan Sin's power to control and alter the nervous system of insects, a transformation that would last over 2 hours. Given her scorpion-like powers, Junhyung faced a daunting challenge in stopping her. Meanwhile, Suchin took on Breeder, surprising him with his speed and powerful punches. Breeder, injured and realizing Suchin was stronger than he thought, used his water spider powers to trap and strangle him. Meanwhile, the little girl who was rescued by Suchin encounters Waejin, who is also on a mission to find Suchin. Doa is now completely under Gyan Sin's control, and to make matters worse, she's unleashed her full force on Junhyung's. Using her tail, Doa forcefully strikes Junhyung's, causing him to stumble back. Junhyung's complains of feeling like he was hit by a truck and knows he won't last much longer. Doa continues her attack, breaking Junhyung's hand with her pincher. In retaliation, Junhyung shoots a flurry of stingers, but Doa blocks them with her pincher while advancing towards him. She lands a powerful punch that shakes the ground, but Junhyung manages to dodge and appears behind her, ready to use his deadly fangs to end the fight. However, Junhyung hesitates for a split second as he remembers Doa as his friend when they were young. This momentary lapse allows Doa, who is under mind control, to strike him with full force. Junhyung is now severely injured and barely holding on. Meanwhile, Suchin is still struggling to breathe as Breeder places his head inside a spider balloon. Gyan Sin then commands Doa to eat a piece of human meat to begin her transformation into a monster. This will make her an unstoppable warrior for Breeder. Junhyung tries to stop her, but he's too injured to move. Breeder finally revealed his twisted plan, which involves turning everyone into a hybrid bug-human warrior in order to create a world where only the strongest creatures survive. Weak humans will be hunted and killed. It's clear that the Breeder is completely insane. He tries to convince Junhyung of his plan, but before he can, Suchin interrupts and insults Breeder's cruel plan. Suchin reminds them that in this new world, everyone will be monsters and completely alone. This triggers memories for Junhyung of his own lonely childhood, where he was always alone until Doa offered him friendship. Realizing the importance of companionship, Junhyung throws a poison stinker to release Suchin. Suchin then takes the human meat from Doa and prepares for a final attack, using his dragonfly speed to become a high-speed bullet and create the most lethal attack possible, as Junhyung had advised him. He accelerates, propelling himself towards Breeder. The normally unflappable Breeder is left disoriented and vulnerable. In a final, desperate maneuver, Suchin transforms his entire body into a deadly projectile, hurtling straight towards his foe. Breeder takes the hit, drawing blood and succumbing to the onslaught. However, Breeder still had a trick up his sleeve. He conjured a water bubble around himself and Suchin, then squeezed Suchin's neck, warning him that he and his friends would soon become mindless slaves. Suchin was terrified and helpless, hoping for a savior to rescue him. At that moment, Weijin arrived on the scene, breaking the water bubble with a powerful punch. She took on Guyan Sin and Doa in battle, knocking Doa out with a single blow. Meanwhile, Junhyung was incapacitated and unable to fight, leaving Suchin and Weijin to face Breeder and Guyan Sin alone. Realizing that they were outmatched, Suchin urged Weijin to flee while he held off their opponents. However, Weijin had a surprise up her sleeve. She had not come alone. Haisheng arrived attacking Breeder, while Hyona used her silk powers to trap Guyan Sin. Out of nowhere, a blinding flash of light appears and a strong force emerges from behind. It's none other than Professor Junji, who has arrived to deal with the wrongdoers. Guyan is stricken with fear as she recognizes her former teacher. Junji reminds Guyan that the severe burns he inflicted on her 5 years ago were evidently not enough of a lesson, and now he's prepared to completely incinerate her. Angry and determined, Guyan prepares to confront her former mentor. Junji vows to destroy them all and make them pay for their mistreatment of his pupils. Guyan charges towards Junji, but Breeder intervenes and restrains her with his webs. Breeder orders Transporter to remove Guyan from the scene. He informs Junji and the other students that he had planned to eradicate them all that day, but the plan must be postponed. Junji realizes that Breeder is the mastermind behind the same villainous organization that's responsible for turning people into monsters. He can't let this evil leader escape, so he unleashes a fiery attack on Breeder. Initially, Suchin believed that his professor had successfully defeated the enemy, as a massive explosion had occurred, emitting a great deal of heat. However, he soon realized that a gigantic centipede-like creature, which was half human and half bug, had surfaced from the ground to defend Breeder. The creature's immense power left Suchin frozen with terror. Breeder threatened to kill all of the students at another time and departed with the centipede monster. Afterward, everything returned to normal and the students recovered, though Guyan and Breeder were nowhere to be found. Suchin and Doa were both hospitalized due to their injuries, while the other orphan children were placed in a safe home and began to live happily. Junji admired Suchin's potential, and the two former rivals made amends while sharing a hospital room. Later, Junhyung was taken away for questioning, while Suchin was released from the hospital and returned to his dorm. There, he met Weijin, who questioned whether or not he had slept with Doa. Weijin had a conversation with Doa 30 minutes ago, during which Doa confessed to waking up in bed with Suchin. Weijin's demeanor immediately shifted upon hearing this news, and she stormed out of the apartment in a fit of rage. Although Doa seems to have returned to her normal state, she can't help but think about Suchin and his behavior. She wants to express her gratitude for his assistance, but hasn't had the opportunity yet. Weijin is seen waiting for Suchin, hoping for an explanation. Suchin is terrified of Weijin, but he eventually explains everything to her. Weijin tries to flirt with him, but he appears oblivious to her advances. Later, the two of them are spotted in a store, where they enjoy some spicy noodles together. Other students from their school mock them for being on a date, which infuriates Weijin. She doesn't want the girls to spoil the moment. Meanwhile, Junji and the other teachers are in a crisis meeting with the university's leader. War is breaking out, and the group led by Breeder is a prime target. There is no indication that the evil group will ever cease their activities. During interrogation, Junhyung confessed to everything, that the pet shop, led by Breeder, had a secret plan to make bug people the ruling class and change society. They conducted experiments on new monsters at a laboratory located on Black Island. Junji was upset when the principal informed him that freshman students would have to join the secret operation, as he believed they were not ready. However, there was no one else available at the moment as older students were on important missions. Meanwhile, Suchin and his friends visited a lab to upgrade their equipment. Suchin wanted new goggles to aid him in battle. The breeder and Guyan got into an argument as Guyan was angry that the breeder had prevented her from fighting her former teacher, Junji. Breeder is on the receiving end of Guyan's threat to kill him if he interrupts her fight again. He becomes increasingly curious about the past between Junji and Guyan. Meanwhile, Junji presents the students with a unique tournament that will determine their eligibility for a spy mission on Black Island. Suchin is eager to participate, but Weijin initially believes it is because he wants to stop the breeder. However, it becomes clear that Suchin is simply concerned about his grades. Junji offers good grades to students who join the mission, and the tournament begins. This competition is not solely based on strength, but also on strategy and teamwork. At the start of the game, Dawn and Hyona from Group B sprint towards Group A, but are unexpectedly attacked by Suchin and Weijin. Dawn uses her new weapon to strike, causing an enormous explosion, with Suchin and Weijin narrowly evading the blast. Weijin charges at Dawn, criticizing her weapon's slow speed, but forgets about Hyona, who uses her slick thread to ensnare Weijin. Dawn then hurls her weapon towards Weijin, with Suchin coming to her rescue, narrowly avoiding the destructive impact. With a burst of confidence, Hyona declares that while the members of Group A may have more experience, it doesn't mean they can't be beaten. Professor Junji, observing from the sidelines, notes that while Weijin and Suchin may be stronger individually, Dawn and Hyona's experience working together gives them the upper hand. As the battle rages on, Dawn unleashes another attack, which Suchin and Weijin manage to dodge. Weijin explains that spiders use venom and webs to protect their vulnerable bodies, then charges towards Dawn. However, Hyona captures Weijin with her thread, leaving her unable to break free. As Hyona attempts to handcuff Weijin, the latter breaks free from the threads and destroys Dawn's weapon with one powerful punch, thanks to her own weapon. Meanwhile, Suchin prepares to execute his ultimate move, launching himself towards Dawn at breakneck speed. At the last second, he stops, causing Dawn to freeze in fear, and handcuffs her, eliminating her from the game. In the meantime, Hyona tricks Weijin into saving her, only to pull Weijin off a cliff and eliminate her from the game as well. Group B's second team takes the opportunity to infiltrate Group A's base and capture their flag. Dowa arrives just in time to save the base, with a bear on her back. One of the attackers charges at Dowa, breaking a massive tree in the process. The other drops toxic scales from above, but Dowa remains unfazed, smiling as she rushes towards the beetle guy. The two of them lock hands, exchanging strength, but Dowa proves to be the stronger one, knocking them both out. Suchin, with his incredible speed, dashes to Group B's base, grabs their flag, and secures the win for Group A. Meanwhile, Haisheng experiences a fleeting moment of uncertainty. He believes he is a complete disappointment and reminisces about his days prior to acquiring abilities. During his participation in sports, particularly soccer, he always perceived himself as unproductive and became the subject of mockery. The group later head back to the classroom to get ready for the next stage.